Hello and welcome to the Scholar Progenium. Today I've got a video that I hope will be very helpful for you. I'm going to be going into the Lost and Death Visions tactics. So who are the Lost essentially? Well, the Lost are your characters that have fallen to the Black Rage. They have joined the Death Company, and up to one captain and up to two lieutenants in your army, and not allowing named characters, so Tycho isn't included in this, can be inducted into the Death Company, and they don't get included in the company command rule, so you can take two captains, for example, so super cool. So you're not losing your main strategist and like buff character to the Death Company. You know, you can take two captains if you want to. Now, another sort of thing that Games Workshop have done to make it easier to get these guys in your list is they've made it only 20 points for your captain and 10 points for a lieutenant, so you can take up to two of those guys. Now, that's really cool, and I often overlook the lieutenants, but as I've been preparing this video, I've actually sort of come across a few combos and that kind of thing, which are, you know, potentially really cool. So, you know, the lieutenants are something I'm definitely going to be exploring in my own games in the future, and you know, if you guys have any ideas about that, then, you know, please do comment down below. So, you know, what does the Lost give you in general as a character? Well, you gain the Black Rage and Death Visions abilities, and Death Visions we'll be going into in just a moment. Now, Black Rage essentially means on the charge you get an extra attack. Really nice, you know, and obviously buffs you in many ways. A model inducted into the Death Company cannot be your warlord and cannot be given any other chapter command upgrades. Now, this doesn't mean he can't be given relics, it just means he can't be made, you know, a super captain that's also a company chapter master or something like that, or, you know, the lieutenant can't be given his company command ability. So you can't upgrade them doubly, you can't stack the upgrades. They also have a slight disadvantage, which is they lose their rights of battle. So the captain gives only rerolls to Death Company units and to hit, and the lieutenant only gives rerolls to wound to Death Company units. So, you know, really nice if you get a Death Company unit down with these guys, and there's some combos we'll explore with, you know, fighting these guys alongside elite units later when we're talking about the Death Visions abilities and when the best times are to activate each of those. But, you know, all in all, these guys, they have lost themselves to the Black Rage. You know, they're fighting, you know, either trying to save Sanguinius in their mind, or perhaps even are Sanguinius. They have become him, fighting against Horus himself. So, you know, this is an emotional time for these guys. They're not there to command other units. You know, they'll get the other Death Company going, riled up through their own fury, but they're not there to help direct fire accurately and that kind of thing. And that's fine, you know, that's you get to take these guys alongside other buff characters. So, you know, and it's really a serious consideration if you're taking the Lost, so to speak, because it doesn't cost command points anymore, and because we aren't as command point heavy as we have been in the past. You know, although we can still burn through the command points really rapidly, you know, there is the potential to take an extra platoon to take extra characters, so you get all your buffs plus some super combat characters. You know, that is a serious consideration when you're building your list. You know, it costs a couple of command points to take an extra platoon, take an extra detachment, but it can very much, and, you know, obviously you'll have to take extra troops, but it can very much be worth it. And, you know, we have so many good troops to choose from, it's not a bad idea. Now, you get some additional bonuses. So the Black Rage, what it does is, you know, I've already told you, if you've made a charge move or you've performed a heroic intervention, you get an extra attack. In your movement phase, you can never fall back, is one of the disadvantages. However, another advantage is when you lose a wound, you get a 6 up, feel no pain. So, you know, just the same as being a Death Company. We all know these rules, but I just thought I'd include it just to cover everything. And then, of course, you can't perform any actions. You know, hands are shaking with rage. You're too angry to raise any banners or anything like that. Okay, so all in all, really good. And, you know, we're building towards a little combo here. You know, remember I mentioned the lieutenants, where, you know, the lieutenant with his Black Rage, you know, you don't have to spend many points on him. You don't have to kit him out loads. You can just take him with, you know, basic power weapon, power sword, power axe, you know, whatever you feel like, for 5 points. And he's, going to be getting a little more. He's going to be able to keep up with your other characters. If you had a Death Company captain and a Death Company lieutenant fighting together, this cheap Death Company lieutenant, he's going to be able to keep up, even if you spend basically no points on him, just a jetpack and this. And then, so just keep that in mind, so to speak, the idea of having a lieutenant comboed with your Death Company captain. Now let's look at the Death Visions. Now, as the deeply ingrained memories of Sanguinius' final battle flood the mind of a warrior lost to the Black Rage, they believe they are the Primarch himself confronting the arch-traitor. Once per battle, when this model is selected to fight, it can use one of the death visions below. The same death vision cannot be used more than once per battle. However, that is not the end of the story. You can get more juice out of each character than that, because we have a special stratagem, Visions of Sanguinius. It's only 1 CP, a lot of our stratagems are now only 1 CP. And if a Death Company character is selected to fight, if he's already used a Death Vision, it can use another Death Vision, not one you've already used, but you can use a second one. And if he's not already used any Death Visions, he can pick 2 to use, but again, not ones you've used before. Now that's, useful to remember if we're taking 2 Death Company characters, because we can, by spending 1 CP, we can use all 3 Death Visions. So it's easy to write off, one of these Death Visions, and I'll go into that in a little minute, but actually we're building towards seeing how we can get the most out of these Death Visions. That's what this video is about. So we want to take all of them into account and think about when we can apply all of these Death Visions, in some way, at least, take it into consideration. So, the first Death Vision is on the bridge of the Vengeful Spirit. Entering the bridge of the Arch-Traitor's flagship, all that stands between the warrior and Horus are a host of traitor legionnaires. A model can only use this Death Vision if any enemy infantry character or monster character models are visible to it. So he has to be able to see them, which is, great. You're probably always going to be able to see an enemy character if you're, in the thick of it, so to speak. So you don't have to be in combat with it, it's just visible to it. So that's great. It's relatively, almost always going to get it off. Until that fight is resolved, add 1 to that model's attack characteristic for every 5 enemy models that are within 6 inches of it. Now, that's really good, and in fact, it makes you angrier than Gabriel Seth himself. I just wanted to point this out, because Gabriel Seth, the Flesh Tearer's first Warlord ability, because, I've been, researching a few Flesh Tearers recently, just to explore them as a chapter. Obviously I've not betrayed, as I am still a Blood Angels, of course. But, the Blood Angel, the Flesh Tearer's first Warlord trait gives this, for every 5 models you get an extra attack, but it's within 3 inches, which is actually relatively, you're probably always going to get 1 off, and it's really useful if you're fighting an elite unit. You might get 1 to 2 extra attacks, just help you blend through that unit. But within 6 inches, that you're going to get it off, and actually within 6 inches, and a 12-inch bubble in total, 6 inches around the model, there could well be a couple of units in the thick of it with at least 5 models within that bubble, maybe more. If you're you could be getting a lot of attacks out of this. It genuinely could generate a lot of attacks. And now each time you make the attack, if you miss, you can re-roll the hit roll, so you're not just re-rolling 1s or anything. And this is great because we can't buff our characters really anymore because they're not core units. So this is nice to be able to get those re-rolls on our characters. So it's not to be poo-pooed. It's not amazing because obviously a lot of the time we hit with everything. But, it combos really nicely with certain, generally with chainsword weapons, but basically with every weapon we have. If you've got the Teeth of Terror maybe, then obviously you're rolling more attacks, 3 more attacks. So you're probably going to miss with more than 1. So getting those rerolls, it's great. It's just going to make that, really powerful. The Severer, which is a Flesh Tearer relic I've mentioned before, that gets mortal wounds on 5s or 6s. So any misses you get, obviously you're going to get more chances to get mortals off. And basically anything that explodes, or any ability that, gets, on 6s or something like that, it's an extra -1 AP or blah, 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 whatever ability you can give, and obviously we've got loads that do it. This is going to make it better because you've got the chance to get those rerolls, which is really nice. It's also really nice if you take a Smash Captain, and instead of taking the Hammer of Baal, you've taken a Mastercrafted just Thunder Hammer as standard, because you have got a chance to miss, but this just gives you the chance to get some rerolls at least, which is, you know, nice. So it just, you know, obviously we know what rerolls do, but so there's, you know, I'm not going to overstate it, but it's really, really nice to get off. However, there is a little bit of a disadvantage with this one, because there is an overlap or an inefficiency with Gift of Foresight. You know, a lot of the time we're going to have the Warlord trait Gift of Foresight, and that gives us one reroll to hit. And generally, a lot of the time, we only miss with one because we're hitting on twos a lot of the time with a lot of our loadouts. So, you know, if you only get one miss and you've already got a reroll to hit, you're not going to use that, are you? It's not going to come off. So I'm just, you know, it's just one thing to consider. If you've paid the points for an extra Warlord trait, don't give that extra Warlord trait to your Death Company character, because there's going to be that overlap. So it's just one thing to not double up and have actually not positive redundancy but negative redundancy. So I just thought I'd mention that one trap you could fall into. Now, if you is there anything else to say on that? Let me just check my notes. Oh yeah, so when should you use this? Well, it's useful a lot of the time, but this really comes into its own when you're hunting elites, and when, as I've mentioned, you're in the thick of it. With that 6-inch bubble, you know, if you can get this guy in, if you're planning ahead to get this one off, you know, and you're fighting against a horde or something like that, and you can really do some damage. Remember, you don't need to be fighting these models, you only have to be within 6 inches of them, you know, so unlike, you know, Gabriel Seth's or, you know, the Flesh Tearer's Warlord trait, where you're probably only getting this buffer out of units you're fighting, this you're going to get buffs out of just loads of stuff, really powerful. So really useful against elite units, or when you're in a combat against, you know, something hardcore and that you're in the thick of it surrounded by stuff. So the second one is the Grace of the Angel. Horus prepares to deliver the final strike against his brother, but when the fatal blow lands, his weapon somehow shatters against Sanguinius's golden breastplate. The Blood Angel's Primarch still lives, and, with renewed hope, the duel continues. Now this one, you know, it's good. It's really good in some situations and really good with some combos. This is a tactical one. Now it's very straightforward. You can only use this Death Vision if an enemy infantry character or monster character model are within engagement range. So it's way more restricted. It's not just with visible, but you have to be in combat with an enemy character of some variety. But it gives you a 3-up invulnerable save. Now that's really useful, and it is fluffy, and obviously we know how a 3-up invulnerable save works, and we know how rare those are these days. You know, they're getting rarer and rarer. And, you know, it's nice to combo with the... if you have one of your characters, let's say you took your lieutenant, you paid extra CP for extra relics, you gave your lieutenant a set of armor that gives him the 3-up invuln once, it's in the general Space Marine Codex, that gives him a 3-up invuln for one turn, then you can obviously spend Angel Sacrifice, burst that, get a 3-up, protect your captain from with that 3-up. So, you know, when these guys are working together, that can be a really nice combo. So it is useful, and obviously remember, because you've got 2 Death Company characters there, you're basically paying 10 points and a CP to draw all the attention away from your captain, your combat captain. You could potentially get him out of a dodge situation. You know, these guys are going to be so powerful. We know how much we're going to hack through with Death Company characters. So, you know, being able to get your captain through that totally unscathed, absolutely incredible. And also, you know, you can obviously not spend the 3-up, or you can, the second round, say the 3-up saves your lieutenant, keeps him in the fight, keeps him hacking, but then the next round, obviously, you can do it again. That lieutenant's cost you nothing, and pop, there he goes, he's gone. Remember, you don't have to even give him that relic. You can just do it once. You don't have to do it twice, but it's just crazy to just keep popping a 3-up save and keep defending your captain by doing it twice. Once with the Grace of the Angel and once with that relic. So, you know, cool combo there that you can just run around. You're almost running around with a Tau drone of a lieutenant. You know, that's going to be super frustrating the first couple of times you use it against your regular opponents, and quite hilarious as well, I'm sure. So just one thing to consider there. So Grace of Angel, you know, really cool, really useful, combos nicely with loads of our stratagems. Unfortunately, you can't activate it fighting against elites. It's just not going to happen unless you're in a multi-combat. So that's one thing to consider. But when do you really want to use this? Well, you want to use it either to as a defensive ploy, as I've described, or on the alternative, you want to use it on your captain, to give him that 3-up invuln, when obviously, as we know, sometimes we're in the position where just a couple of wounds could slip through, an opponent's got a flat 3 damage, or flat 2 damage and quite a few attacks, and there's just a good chance that's going to slip through our 4-up invuln. It doesn't take much, even at -2 AP on a character, that's not much to ask. So, most characters are going to take us to our invuln, so it's just useful on the face of it, as is quite obvious, to keep a unit alive. Now, the last one is to slay the Warmaster. Now, every fibre of my being wants me to say this is trash tier, but it's actually not in certain situations. So, let's get a bit deeper into this. So, this Death Vision, what does it say? Well, striking at a chink in the Warmaster's armour, this warrior attempts to land a killing blow to end the heresy in its tracks. A model can only use this Death Vision if any enemy infantry character or monster character models are within engagement range. So it's the same as the Grace of the Angel. You've got to be fighting a bad boy. Now, if you're just skimming this, you see, D3 plus 3 mortal wounds, that's sick. But when you read deeper, that's what makes me want to say it's trash tier, and it's so... On the surface, it's so heavily trash tier, because if a model uses this Death Vision, then instead of making attacks, you lose all your attacks. You just roll off a dice against your opponent, and if you win, so not even on the draw, you have to straight up win, then you select an enemy model, so it's useless against, if you're in a multi-combat, this is only useful against a character, and it does D3 plus 3 mortal wounds. Remember, the Grace of the Angel, you could be in a multi-combat situation where you're against a character and their sort of entourage of elites, and you're going to take hits off those elites. So that 3-up invuln is going to be useful, and you can activate it because the character's there. But with this, it only affects one model. It's not D3 plus 3 mortals. You can't splash those over onto elite unit in a multi-combat. So again, trash. But when is trash not trash? One man's trash is another man's treasure, as they say. Well, again, remember our friend, the lieutenant, our lost bros, so to speak, the lost boys, the captain and the lieutenant. Well, remember, you can have your captain get off the Bridge of the Vengeful Spirit and Grace of the Angel. He can get all his attacks re-rolled. He can get bonus attacks for every model within 5 models within 6 inches of him, and he can have a 3-up invuln. And for 1 CP, you can spend the stratagem I already mentioned to get both off in 1 turn if you want, or to get 1 off 1 turn and 1 off the 2nd turn. So really useful. But the Grace of the Angel actually comes in really nicely. This guy, this is actually for our lieutenant. It's there for him. You're never going to use this on a captain, because let's face it, if you're in the situation where you've got to use this on a captain, where you've got a 50, the D3 plus 3 sounds great, but a 50-50 to do nothing. When are you ever in a situation where you're on a 50-50 to do nothing? What loadout have you brought where the potential to do nothing on a 50-50, even more so because you have to win, less than a 50-50, is a better, a more enticing option than, just trying to slip some damage through. What loadout have you taken? What series of mistakes have you made with your captain where you're willing to chance getting nothing just to try and get D3 plus 3 mortal wounds? You should have a Thunderhammer with you. You should have something with you that is making your AP good enough, considering you and your strength, considering you've got +1 to wound, considering, you've got probably hitting on 2s, or you've got high damage if you're not hitting on 2s, create, really good damage. It's just never going to be useful. But our lieutenant, he's come along for the fight. Now, he's kept up so far, through trial and tribulation. He's kept up with his big brother because, he's got that, little cheap power weapon, and he's got his extra attack on the charge because he's, Death Company, and so he's, you know, he's keeping up, so to speak. But, you know, he's now finds himself in some fight against some heavy big boss, some beast, some nasty character, your opponent's warlord, or, you know, something like that. And, you know, now his cheap power weapon, which was helping him in most situations keep up with the Death Company captain and, you know, put out serious damage and be really useful, is now, you know, not looking so good. He's not got as many attacks as a captain. He's, you know, he's got attacks, but he's not going to have as high, you know, he's not necessarily going to have high strength because your captain might have the Thunderhammer. You know, there's situations where this lieutenant, you spent basically no points on him. He's saved your captain in a couple of situations, you know, and then all of us, you know, because maybe you've, you know, saved him with the decoy, you know, like combination of stratagems that I previously mentioned, and then to top it all off, you know, your opponent's getting really sick of this lieutenant, you know, and then you just go, oh, just before I die, let's have a roll off. Oh, I win, D3+3 mortal wounds, and you just finish off their, you know, this character, and, you know, just explode him, suicide vest. So, you know, that kind of is quite a tantalizing opposition for me. I'm going to try and get that combo off soon, you know, as soon as I get the chance to play a battle report, because it just seems funny to me. To just have this, like, these Death Company bros, these Lost Brothers running around, you know, take this super cheap lieutenant and just, you know, maybe take 2 units of Death Company, so I'm going to have a really good chance of getting buffs off from these characters as well, but not, you know, base my battle plan around it, and just, you know, getting stuck in and seeing what I can get out of really playing to these death visions. Because, you know, in some games we can even forget we've got them when we get carried away. You know, turn 2, turn 3, things are getting really crazy. Our characters are so powerful as it is, you know, and we've probably got, you know, artificer on them, armor on them, or, you know, all a variety of different stuff on them, that it's easy to forget when you've paid for the Death Company that it's not just about that extra attack, it's about these death visions as well. So, you know, really do have a think about when you can use them. Really do try and maximize this exciting sort of page on our supplement and try and get the most out of it. I really encourage you. So, you know, I've really enjoyed researching and making this video, and, you know, also I've had a couple of games we've had some beautiful weather in the UK recently. I've had a couple of garden games, and, you know, we're actually going to film this weekend. This was going to be a battle report, but apologies, my opponent just couldn't make it, sadly. So, you know, without much further ado, we'll call it there. So, I hope you found this video interesting. I hope you found it entertaining. This has been the Scholar Progenium. Thank you very much for your time. Goodbye.